Isn't that a beautiful sun? Just to say hey to everybody. Alright, so here we are on our scope as promised. Coming to tell you guys what's going on. I can barely see what I'm doing. The sun is in my eyes. See if this works. Just sitting here temporarily. Hey everyone, Princess Pink, Miss Bombshell, everyone's here. Just here to talk to you just quickly before I go off to Gabversity. We're going to do some mathematics and astronomy. So the stupidity and naivety of some overconfident, arrogant Westerners, none of you of course, at all. I had to clarify this. What I saw today on Facebook, and I see this many times, is something very silly, and I'm going to talk about it quickly. And the reason I'm going to tell you the end before the beginning. The end and the point is that the fake left will take true liberals like me and use what happened against you, against everyone else, right? And they'll say, look at conservatives, look at white people, they hate you, right? Which is not true. Now, I'll tell you what happened. I went onto Facebook and I see someone post a photo or a video from Dearborn, Michigan, and they called it radical Muslims celebrating the beheading of Jesus. And I thought, this looks retarded, let's have a look. So I looked at the video and I watched it 3 times. And the first time I knew immediately what it was. The second time I watched it to make sure, and the third time I wanted to read the Arabic script that came in for a millisecond in the video. So, number one that you guys have to know, number one is that Islam is not an island. Islam is an archipelago, right? And I've told this before to my VIP scopers. It's like, for example, the Philippines. The Philippines has many islands. And they have many different ethnicities, races, and languages and religions on those islands. And you can't, just because one person on one island is a maniac, it doesn't make everyone else a maniac, because it is not one belief. In fact, the civil war in Islam started in 61 AH, or 61 years after Muhammad. All right, so it started almost immediately after the Prophet died. So anyone who thinks Islam this, Islam that, you're already a moron, all right? And you might be the nicest person in the world, but your naivety makes you an idiot. Now, so the first step is to realize that we're all naive, we're all idiots, and we're all naive. That's the first thing. So be careful when you make any comments. And I say the same thing with me. I've been studying Islam for, 19 years, and I'm not going to say that I am a scholar. Yeah. And why is it important? Okay, it's important for this reason. Let's say that in the whole world there are 2 Muslims, right? Let's say one is radical and the other is radical. Let's say they're both radical, right? But they both hate each other, right? That means that they cancel each other out to a very high degree, because they're going to be trying to kill each other, as opposed to be uniting to take over the world like some people think. And that's really important to understand, because that's how you #divide the enemy. That's how you #divide the enemy. So let me explain now that I've given you the answer. Now I'm going to give you what actually happened. What was happening was someone took a video from last roughly October, because in 2016 Al-Ashura for the Shiites happens in October. Now what's Ashura? Ashura is the 10th day of the month of Muharram, which last year was in October and this year will be in September, so it will happen again. And this commemorates the murder of Hussein bin Ali, who was the grandson of Muhammad, who followed the Quran to the letter and suspected the mainstream elitists corrupt, according to him. I'm not saying this is true, according to him, or according to what's attributed to him. He believed that Islam was being corrupted and all of the stories of Muhammad were being faked by another group headed by a guy called Yazid and the Muawiyyin, which I won't get into today. Right? Now, ultimately, he refused because of he was very pious. So whatever he believed in is not relevant for this story. The story was that, as far as history depicts him, he was extremely pious and he was the grandson of Muhammad, and he followed the Quran to the letter, right? Assuming that that version is true, but irrespective. Even if it's not true, we feel its effects today. He refused to back down, and not only was he murdered and beheaded, but his body and all the bodies of all of his relatives were trampled on by horses and squashed until they were just guts all over the road. All of his women, as you call them, his women, were taken by the mainstream Sunni Islamists and were taken as captives, as slaves, and raped and all that stuff. So it was an atrocity that happened to him by other Muslims. So as you might want to imagine, some Muslims hate other Muslims more than they hate anyone else because of this history that happened very early on. So be careful when you say Islam is this, Islam is that. No, half of them are going to be on your side against the terrorists, and the other half, some of those are not terrorists. So this is what I say, these people who posted up this picture, they had no idea what they were talking about. It was not the head of Jesus, it was the head of their leader that they believe will be coming back at the end of time to exact justice on all of these, what they consider to be fake Muslims. And this war has been going on for 1.5 millennia and has not stopped. And what's funny is that most of those people are actually in Iran. So why, for example, America takes a side of Saudi Arabia against Iran, that's a whole different story. I'm not going to get involved. But the people who are mostly on your side, the people are mostly heretical Muslims. So all the Islamic minorities know what it's like to be persecuted by the mainstream. And so if you wanted to be smart, you would divide the enemy. You would go into Dearborn. You would find all of these Muslims who still have horrific practices. Yom al-Ashura, you know, they do that, and then some of them whip themselves, some of them cut their heads. That's their business. I'm not there to get involved. They're not forcing me to do it, and that's what they want to do. All right, that's their business. But it would be possible because they're very conservative and they hate radical Islamists. No, but you see, that's also an assumption that's incorrect. And the reason is because the Islamic community, like most communities around the world, not just Islamic, but Christian, Middle Eastern communities, Russian communities, they do not have the idea of the individual. They have the idea of the collective. And so you cannot go against the collective because you will lose everything. You will lose all your house, all your family. If you have children, they'll be taken from you. How does one see? I don't know what you mean particularly. That's a bit too abstract for this situation, I think. What's the reason to why they got themselves hit? I don't want to talk specifically about Yom al-Ashura. If you want to know the exact, because that's how we get into the weeds, and that's a very conservative thing to do, where you get into the weeds, which is not bad. Hey, Flume, birthday boy. That's not a bad thing, by the way. Conservatives tend to get into the weeds, which makes them brilliant managers and makes them brilliant soldiers. Perspective and sources of what we see. Well, what Westerners see is they see through the prism of their own values and their own lifestyle. So it's very easy to see all Islam in a certain way. And that's unbelievably dangerous because a lot of them will be on your side. So for example, half of the Shia hate America, for example, maybe. I don't know how many, maybe it's 10%, maybe 20, I don't know, right? Because of America's foreign policy. And so do the Christians. The Christians in the Middle East hate the US foreign policy. I hate US foreign policy. I'll tell you right now. And most Americans hate US foreign policy, right? And so let's not get caught in the weeds. What's important is that when you see someone doing what looks violent and radical, they might actually not be radical. They might actually hate the radicals more than you do. And in fact, they do, because the radicals murdered their leader 1,500 years ago. The radicals murdered Americans only 15 years ago, right, in general. So there's a very, very, very deep hatred that some Muslims have against other Muslims. So you have to learn this, and the reason you have to learn this is because whether we like it or not, the West is in the mind. It's no longer just one country, it's everywhere or nowhere. So we have to fight the radicals in Lebanon, in Australia, in America, in Poland, in France. You have to understand who is just pious and who is a radical. So a pious Shia may still not want you hanging around their females, for example. They still might be very conservative. That's called being conservative. That's not being radical. Those type of conservatives you can ally with. 100% you can ally with people like that. And there are people on the Sunnah side, there are Sufiyin, there are Ahmadiyin. All of these are considered al-kafir by the Islamist. Okay? These are all the Muslims you want on your side. You want to get them on your side before they get indoctrinated with the fake leftist cult. Because you can say to them, you can meet these people and you can say, look, like you could set up the conservative alliance of, you know, I don't know, of Shia and or something like that, the Shia conservative alliance, or the heretical Muslim conservative alliance, or the Islamic conservative alliance, or something like that, right? And what you're doing is you are stealing the theme from the fake left. And you don't know how many Muslims, and I'm telling you this because I lived in Saudi, how many Muslims would love to side with conservatives, man, because they love responsibility, they love family, they love America, they love the West, they want to destroy radical Islam more than you. Like, I'm telling you now, like, see, the thing with Christians is they have turned the other cheek. Shia don't have that. So if you want to help, like, if you want to murder the radicals, the Shia will freaking go put bullets in their head non-stop. They have no problem with that. And kafir, but yeah. See, Shubi, I love you, man. Seriously, I love you. Like, you ask me a question like that, and it shows the beauty and naivety of the West. You have such a beautiful heart to ask that question. There has never, ever in history been one Islam. Never, never, ever, ever in history has there been one Islam. Okay? It's always been warring factions. And in fact, that's why Islam has always crumbled, because from within they want to kill each other. And you have to learn this. And this is why I'm here to tell you this. When you learn it, you've got to realize, number one, you've got to get the Shia. Start small. You got to find, number one, the hardest part will be to separate the good from the bad Sunnah. That'll be hard because the radicals are mostly in the Sunnah side, right? But firstly, to make it easy for you, you've got to find the Alawiyya, right? The Ahmadiyya, the Sufi, the Yazidi. No, you can't wait. You got to do there's a delay. So as I was saying, you got to get the Sufiyin, the Ahmadiyya, the Yazidiyin, the Shia, the Alawiyya. You got to get all of them. Those five, the five fingers of the heretical Islam. It's, you know, they have the pillars of faith. We have the five pillars, or the five fingers of heretical Islam. You got to get all of them onto your side as conservatives. And I'm telling you, they will be your best friends. You'll be surprised how much you like them, and they will be surprised how much they like you. Right? They'll agree with you more than me, and I'm a liberal, right? They hate my side, like, not me. They don't hate me, but their day-to-day life is so conservative. You'll be surprised how much you guys get along. And you, at the moment, until you can get into government and reverse whatever you want to reverse, that is your power. You can get all these guys to become conservative. You can say to them, just like you say with me, right? You say, look, Gabriel, you know, you're a liberal. You know, you don't believe what we believe, but you support Western values, you support the family. So do these guys. So if you get them on your side, they will be your best enemy against the fake left. Because when the fake left wants to call you an Islamophobe, they are obligated. Yes, they are. They are obligated, especially the heretical Muslims. They are obligated to protect you, but they are also minorities. So they have the minority mentality. In Dearborn, just have a go rewind, and you'll see what's happening. It's nothing happening at the moment. It's that people take photos and videos of Islam, and they call them radicals, and they confuse which ones are radicals or which ones are just pious. So let's start with this. You know that we're good with memes here, right? So you want the pious Muslim. The pious Muslim, right? Some say it should be implemented. Yes, some do say that. But you've got to ask yourself, you conservative, yeah. But Christians also want their Christian values implemented. So in that sense, there's not much of a difference, because the Sharia, as seen by most heretical Muslims, is not very different from the Christian faith. But you all have to agree that religion stays out of politics. That's it. You say to them, listen, I don't bring my Christianity, I don't force other people to follow my Christian faith, and I don't want you to force me to follow your Sharia. And that's where the alliance comes in, the American Evangelical Movement. It doesn't look like that, but some Christians do. Some Christians want you to celebrate Merry Christmas and all that stuff. And I don't want to get into that. Once again, we're getting into the weeds, because it's not important. The thing is, you can celebrate Yom al-Ashura, for example, with the Shia. Right? Once you get used to it, you can celebrate with them, and you can say to them, Happy Yom al-Ashura, and they'll say to you, Merry Christmas. and they'll come into your church, and some of you may even go to their mosques, because the heretical Muslims, would they back Sharia? Not in the way you think, no, because they are by definition minorities. So they when they go home, may want to practice their own beliefs, but the Constitution comes first. And that's what I mean by pro-West. The Constitution is before anything. Let there always be a wall of separation between church and state. Always, 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 always. And as long as you keep it in check within yourself, they will keep it in check within themselves. Because the minority Islam, they know they've been persecuted for for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. Same with us Maronites, right? So they're similar to us in the sense, and the Jews as well. They're similar, even though they don't like Jews very much. But we're all similar in the sense that we know what it's like to be harassed by Islamic radicals. And so that's why they will be on your side. And you don't have to agree. Just like you and I don't agree on the weeds at all, right? But we keep it at the high level. Oh, the weed and the tars. Yeah, that's true. We keep it at a high level. I've got to go soon. We keep it at a high level. And we say, this is what we agree on. These are our principles. What you do at your home is your business. But we agree on the Constitution. We agree on the largest pro-West tent, absolutely. And it's the only way we're going to win. We have to have an allegiance between us true liberals, conservatives, libertarians, heretical Muslims, so the 5 fingers of Islam, right? Plus, there are a lot of Sunnah who actually agree with us too, but it's going to be harder to find them because there's no label. They're stuck inside the community. You don't hear this anywhere else. I don't understand. Like, to me, it's so obvious. Like, it's just ridiculous. I don't know. But the propagandist media, they don't advertise this stuff. So, for example, there were Muslims who spoke out, perish for lack of knowledge. You know, when Trump was elected, right, and even before he was elected, some of his best supporters were the heads of Islamic institutions in the US. Yeah. So that's another thing, like, as I am being an autistic freak of nature, I listen to every single speech, every single meeting of Trump's, even though I'm not a Trump supporter, I still listen to every single one, right? And that's what I do. And I'm a Trump understander as opposed to a Trump supporter. I understand that his manifestation was inevitable, right? And it's happened everywhere in the world. So I'm not going to get into that either, because that's another weird thing. But the point that I wanted to get across to you guys was that the people who supported Trump, some of his best supporters were Muslims. And I'm telling you now, if you ever heard these Muslims speak, you will love them. You will love them because you wouldn't. Right. You will love. Some of these Muslims are better than 1,000 Christians. I'm telling you, they are like amazing people. 100%. I will bet my life on that. I have no problem with it. I've known some of these people for years, and they have been there for me before anyone in my whole family except my brother, mother, and father. Excuse me. Once again, you said their religion. I can do that to you. I can say Christians hate gays. Watch everyone now defend that. No, Paul only said that here. No. Some people misinterpret it. Absolutely should be considered. But that will come out. When you make friends with all these people, over time, make the world great again. I love that one. Muga. Make the world great again. So anyway, you're going to have questions like that, absolutely. But all of those questions are valid. Yes, there is taqiyya. Yes, many Muslims might hate you. Yes. All these certain things. But none of those are a legitimate excuse. And I'm not saying you're doing this. I'm saying in general. None of those are a legitimate excuse by anyone to sit back at home and say, let's stay in our own corner. So here are the benefits. Number one, by allying yourself with these people. Number one, it's an allegiance, right? It's an ally. It's an affiliation. You're not asking them to become Christian, and they're not asking you to become Muslim, right? That'll never happen. That does not have to happen. All right. What happens is that you agree, just like you've done with me. So you've done it without realizing with me. And you guys know, I tell you every time that we don't agree on anything. Absolutely. Trust with one eye open. Absolutely. Of course. And they're going to be the same with you, and it should always be that way. It should never change. Because when you trust with both eyes closed, that's when you get screwed. And you open, you're honest about it. You be honest, just like I'm honest with you. What do we say? All you have to do at the beginning is say hello. Just say hello. How are you? That's it. That's all you start by doing. Hello, how are you? And you don't know if you're talking to an Islamist or whether you're talking to a heretical Muslim that will defend you to the death. You don't know. Because in your brain, at the moment, they all look the same. After a while, you will notice some differences. Now, me as the autist, of course, I'm going to notice them quickly. And plus, I come from the Middle East, so it's much easier. But it will come over time. You will notice that heretical Muslims have beards that are different shape. They wear different clothes. They have different names. Their accent is slightly differently. Their skin color is different a lot in many cases. Their type of skin is different. Because of the ethno-religious divide, evolution happens over time. So all of these things, just start by saying hello. And over time, you will find them. Go to the internet, look up Muslims for Trump, for example. And one of you, especially the younger, the Generation Z, I love Generation Z because they're more like me. They have the activist gene in them. So Generation Z, yeah, you trigger to words. You gotta let them say it. You know, you gotta expose yourself to it and just whatever. People are gonna say what they're gonna say. It doesn't change who you are. If you are confident in who you are, whatever people say doesn't affect you. That's why I talk to conservatives. Because I can love you and still be a liberal. I'm not worried. I don't care if you wanna, you know, you wanna raise your kids in Christianity, right? That's your business. It's not gonna change how I think, right? If I can learn from you, awesome, and you're going to learn from me. And look, here's the thing. I'm honest from the beginning. I tell you guys, and you're the same, right? I tell you from the beginning, I'm on the left. I'm ultra liberal. I am so far to the left, right, that we're going to agree on nothing. On nothing. I'm telling you now, if we spoke on politics, we would fight, right? And I look forward to those days. But you know that from the beginning I said that, and yet we're all still the best friends. Why? Why? Because we agree on the West. We agree on freedom of speech. What are your left views? My views are as far left as you want to go on everything. On gay rights, on African American, I hate that word, on people with descendants of slaves, on reparations, on socialism, on abortion. All my stuff is so far left you don't even want to hear them, right? Because you'll hate me. But that's not the point. The point is, as I said, we believe in individual liberty, in education, in discussion. And we will keep, once society is back to being healthy, then we will have discussions on that. We will say, this is why I think this way. Because as I said, it's important how you think, not what you think. How you think is more important than what you think. Because we are guaranteed to disagree. Even conservatives amongst yourselves, you're going to disagree. Right? Some are Ted Cruz supporters. Some are Huckleberry Finn supporters, whatever his name is. Exactly. You're so tolerant. Well, what other choice do we have? Because the only other choice is war. And I've been in war. A lot of people who talk smack these days haven't been in war. And you know, I was a kid and I saw murders and atrocities in front of me. That stuff, you are never the same person when you come out of that. So there's no point in you going through that. Why? Why should you go through that? So the way to change war is to change within yourself. So what do we take away from today? Two things. We take away, number one, if you see someone you think is Muslim, right? Let me rephrase. If you see someone you think is from the archipelago of Islam, I'm going to call it the archipelago of Islam from now on, or the island chain, right? Say hello. They may be a terrorist. They may be a nice person. They may be highly conservative and a nice person. They may be liberal and a terrorist. You don't know. You don't know. Just say hello. That's number one. Number two, you know, Jibril, number two, right? So number two, right? Some of you, and I ask all of you to do it, but hopefully someone will. Madalena. Like La Maddalena? Like La Mad, I don't know what that is. Anyway, number two, right? A day with Islam. Referential skirt. That's it. They may be, you don't know, but you're not going to know unless you say hello. If you don't say hello, then you're going to lock all of them away. And trust me when I say this, And I'm telling you this from personal experience. There are heaps of Muslims who would love to get away from being trapped by their uncles who molest them or their fathers. I'm telling you now, it is an epidemic, and they would love to get out of that. Yeah, let's not go too far. All right, so the second thing to learn is that communication is the key. You go to the internet and you look up Muslims for Trump and find the organizations. I ask all of you to do that as soon as we get off from here. Look up Muslims for Trump. Right? And I'm not a Trump supporter, as you know, but that's irrelevant, because we got to start with Muslims for Trump, because that's the easiest way to find Muslims who are on your side. And then you find these organizations and you call up and you say, look, I'm just a regular white American. I love my country, and I think you love our country too. You know, I think we're both from the same country. Let's meet up. Let's have a coffee. I want to know more about you. Just try it. And believe me, out of those people, I'm telling you, I mark my words, and you know me, right? You know me. I say what I say, and what I say is what I say. Pro-West, absolutely. And they will be pro-West, man. You're going to have, and this is why. I'm telling you, these are your secret weapons. Because when the piece of shit fake left start labeling you Islamophobic, you pull out your best friend, and you got your arm around him or her or whatever, and you say, this guy, he is more Muslim than you would ever be in your wildest dreams. And he's my brother. So I think you're the Islamophobe, bitch. That's how it works. Boom. Exactly right. That's how you start wiping the floor with these pieces of shit fake left. You follow me on Facebook. Oh, you're a sweetheart. Thank you very much. It's funny because what I'm telling you doesn't seem that profound, but I felt like I was obligated to say it now. I'm so glad that you guys are taking it on board. Islamophobe, bitch. That's awesome. That's Kevin, man. Yeah, bitch. Kevin's from Gen Z, man. In 10 years, he's going to be a massive weapon. So that's what I'm saying. You know, you guys lead by example for your younger conservatives. You know, and anyone else who's a liberal like me on here, you already know this for the most part. And I say do the same thing. I smell a hashtag. Islamophobe, bitch. Oh, man. The other thing is people on the fake left don't have a sense of humor. So they don't really understand the play on words and stuff. Anyway, that's it for today. That's your mission. That's your homework for today, right? Let's see who's the true pro-Westerner. So what are the two things? Number one, just say hello. Number two, find the Muslims for Trump in your area. And if you're a liberal like me, you call them up and you say, listen, I'm a liberal. You're a conservative. That's fine. But I want to be friends. Let's just meet up. You know, let's be pro-West together. Let's unite and destroy this fake left, disgusting pro-Marxist, you know, what do you call them, the social constructionist, postmodernist, corrupt bastards. Let's wipe them. Let's wipe the floor with them. And then I tell you what, those Muslims will turn around and go, fuck yeah, man, yeah. It'll be awesome. It'll grow. Muslims, the good Muslims are more scared of you than you are of them. Because you guys are a force to reckon with, man. Like white Republicans, my God. Like Trump supporters, man, my pleasure. I love you guys, man. Honestly, you guys are warriors. You guys are soldiers. You work with Muslims. Beautiful. But once again, you work with people from the archipelago of Islam, I got to think of a better name. We are friends. Awesome. Awesome stuff. But no, there's a mosque. I had a Muslim student last year. Love this family. Beautiful. So they're starting to come out now. This is the wave that we have to. This is the shock wave. We're gonna rip the fake left apart at their own game. I'm telling you, man, because I want with us together, we need to take the Democrat Party back for Americans so that we can have true liberals in that party, just like JFK. Well, I teach Arabic on 6 Lang, as you know. So if you start watching them, sleeping tigers, that's what you guys are, my friends. I'm telling you. All right, I'm going to go. They're aggressive Marxist fake left. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. They don't even understand Marxism because Marxism predicted the rise of Trump. They're so stupid they don't even understand. 6 Lang. 6 Slang. Yeah. SIXLANG. When will you have another Periscope? I'm going to go to Gabversity within the hour and do my quantum mechanics, basic mathematics for astronomy and ethics. I'm going to do a quiz on ethics today. Authorization, oppression. That's where the fake right comes in. Later, guys. Love you all, as always. Damn straight.